Alright, today we're starting a new project, something we've never tackled before, but it's never scared me before anyway, so let me show you what we're about to attempt to do. Here's the replacement pump, and I guess it's pump and motor, because your hydraulic pump's in here, your electric motor for HWH hydraulic system. There's an AP30348 situation here, a buddy of mine. You can see here his slide is stuck open, and he's already done some preliminary testing for me. The spec on it, what'd you say, 4,000 PSI? 35. Okay, spec, we need a 3,500 PSI. He's only developing 1,200 PSI. So they've determined the pump itself has probably failed. Here's the original pump. And so today's project is getting it out. So hopefully we'll get this process took care of today. So first step, of course, is disconnect the engine battery. And because you got this large battery post, you want to make sure power's off. And I use my test light right here. I've confirmed that. So that's step one, and now I'm going to get in there with some side cutters and start cutting zip ties and removing some things, try to clean things up, label a few items, because you can see by this mess we've got quite a bit of stuff to disconnect in order to get this replaced. So I don't know if I'm going to have to come in from the top or come in from the bottom. One thing I did notice is the size of the motor. Man, it's so much larger. Electric motors really increased in size from what the original ones they put out 20 years ago. So, alright, let's get started. Alright, so step one, you see I've got the large cable released here. I've taken this wire loose. I took pictures as I went along. And then this wire on this part of the cylinder goes back around to the back side of the motor. So I got it removed. So I'm gonna try to keep things as an assembly best I can. So we get this loose, and then, because we still got a lot to go, but anyway, that's where I'm at this moment. Okay, so my next little step here is getting all these ground cables loose, because there's a bunch of them. It's a 9/16 wrench. So I'm going to slowly get these off and all those star washers out of the way and get that done. Okay, note to self, I've removed 6 grounds. So when I put it back together, I better have 6 grounds. Okay, so on top, we've got 3 long studs that holds the manifolds together. We have 2 manifolds, one for the rooms, one for the jacks. It looks like they're stacked on top of one another. These big long studs, 7/16 socket. Kind of tight fit between this and the shuttle valve. So I was able to put my socket on top of it and tap it down with a hammer and got it out without removing the shuttle valve. So I've just got one more stud to get out of here. So that should get the manifolds loose. Another thing I did before this, I got me some brake cleaner and sprayed everything pretty good down by the manifold where it was kind of oily. I used brake cleaner. Then I got my air compressor. I hit it with a blast of air, try to blow off all the crud, try to keep things as clean as possible. Alright, so next step, I got these 9/16 bolts from underneath. This piece here is a little strange. I don't understand its purpose. It's there. It's an awful heavy piece of. Alright. We're getting a little bit closer. I'm hoping we'll get some movement now. And you see I got the manifold has released. It's moving. And I'm going to see if I can actually get the tank to move now. See if I got anything else I got to take loose. Okay, another helpful tip for you is getting this big fiberglass piece out of the way. There's one thing we did to help facilitate reinstall is made our marks with a magic marker, so we can put it back the way we found it. And then also we marked where the nuts went on the back side, you see. So with all that done, it should go back together a little bit easier. Now I can get right up here nice and close and fight with this thing. So you see we got things loose. I'm gonna try to get me some rope here and tie this up, get it out of our way. So I'm just hoping we got enough room to get this out. I don't know. It's gonna be close. Alright, see how we did? We got both manifolds tied up. We utilized the master cylinder here to do that with. Something good and strong. I got good space. And you see we got movement here. You see the motor in the tank is moving. Now, if I can just get lucky enough to get it out that small hole. So let me fight with that and see if we get a little luck. Okay, one little helpful tip is, see that plastic plug that comes with a new one, so we put it on this, so that when we tip it out, hopefully we don't lose no oil. That way we might lose a little oil from this other place. Oh well. All right, Ken's holding the camera. Is it still recording? Okay, you're good.
My finger's over it.
Let me see if this will drop out. Oh yeah, it did. It came out easy. Awesome, Possum. All right. Just FYI, when I get back home to Kentucky, I'm going to dissect this. I'll make a separate video, try to find out its point of failure, why they fail, if there's anything we can do about it. Kind of curious how it all works inside. And actually, he said he started this project back in October, so his poor RV's been out of commission for quite a while now that we're in the middle of February. So we're going to get him going. Okay, so now you got this out, you want to be sure to remove your grounding stud from the old pump. Transfer it to the new one. Better to do it now than when you get it back up in that hole. Get it good and snug. Alright, so I thought I'd show you these things side by side, but look how much beefier these new motors are. That is incredible. Of course, that one held up for 20 years for its size. It's pretty amazing, but if you do this upgrade, you're going to get a lot better motor. But I don't know, we might have a clearance issue with this motor too. Let me do some measuring before I put that in there. See how much longer it is. And we got this lip on this plate down here. I'm hoping that clears. We'll find out soon enough. I thought I'd show what we're working on here. This is a 2004. What's the brand?
Winnebago.
Oh, it's a Winnebago. And what's its?
Adventurer.
Adventurer. 2004 Winnebago Adventurer. And what's it? 36, 38 feet long?
33.
Oh, 33 footer. Okay. Good deal. That's what it looks like if you're curious. Okay,
I'll tell you what,
you're recording. Big feet. All right, let me get my mat situated here. Okay. Not bigger, there's a lot bigger. Oh, it fits.
It fit?
Hot dog here. Okay, so I've got the screw started. This got loose now until I get everything else in place, in case I need to take it back loose for some unknown reason. And if you look up in there closely, okay, all right, there you go. You see those two O-rings? We got to be mindful. We got to clean this surface really good. Make absolute sure. We got these plugs in here still. We don't drop any dirt or anything in there. One speck of dirt in the hydraulic system will make for a bad day. So I got to carefully remove these two O-rings, get the new ones in here. Now in your O-rings, you're going to get 4 large, 2 small ones. The 2 smaller ones are for older systems. I think what was it, 91, 92, the older ones, but most everybody will probably be using the larger ones. So we're going to have the larger ones on the lower manifold. Come on, camera, where you at? Get to the right spot. But remember, we've also got the secondary manifold, which is right there, and there's O-rings between them also, because one manifold's for the jacks and one manifold's for the rooms. So let's pull those O-rings out and see if I can get them in place, and hopefully they stay in place as we assemble it. That's the tricky part. Okay, you can see I carefully got the new O-rings in there. Just kind of make sure they're pressed in all the way. The old ones was pretty tight to get out. It's been there pretty good, but I finally plucked them out with my fingernail. You want to be careful. You don't want to use no sharp screwdrivers or anything digging around, scratching that soft aluminum, cause a leak. So try to dig it out with your fingernail or something plastic. All right, so we got that done. See if we can't lower that manifold. And remember, then we got to separate and get the other O-rings in between on the top one. Of course, one last step before you drop the manifold is remove your plugs. Everything's nice and clean. We're ready to drop the manifold on it. Alright, to keep you updated, if you can see what we've done here, now we've tied up the second manifold. We've got the lower manifold kind of in position. So now I just got to put the O-rings in place. The little recessed machined areas right there and right there. So I'm going to get those O-rings in place, and we'll be getting a little bit closer to getting these manifolds set back in place. Alright, you see both O-rings are in place. Something else I did, it may help you in trying to separate and get a little more space. a lot of these wires going to the solenoids were wrapped under hydraulic lines. Wouldn't let me give me the separation. So I unplugged each one individually, then replugged them in so I could get more slack and get it a little bit higher. So you may have to do the same, because a lot of these wires were tucked underneath this hydraulic line, making things kind of tight. But I think we're ready to loosen up this string, and whoops, I dropped my phone. We'll loosen this string up right here, lower this manifold down, and get our studs back in place. Alright, manifolds went down nice and easy, kind of got them lined up. I've got the studs all started here. I want to point out to you, as you're putting it back together, remember this is kind of offset. See how it's offset? You may think this lines up with this, but it does not. It's offset a little bit, so don't think you're messing up by moving it to the side, because you really can't put it on wrong, because these studs are in a stagger. So I'm going to snug these up, and then snug up the bottom bolts, and we just got a lot of wires to put back on, don't we? Now the book didn't give me a torque spec on these studs, so I'm using only a 1/4" drive ratchet. So don't get carried away, because even though they was quite tight to get loose, but they did come loose. So I got them snugged up now. Now I just got to tighten up those bolts in the bottom, and then start remembering all these wires I unhooked and get them back in place. Okay, now in your kit you're going to get a larger hose clamp, because that's the original one for the small motor. Because we got this new big giant motor, we need a larger hose clamp that will wrap around the motor and clamp the solenoid. You see how it works? It feeds through the base of the solenoid. Pretty cool little design. So we just got to wiggle it down in there and get that hose clamp in place. Alright, so note to self, note to you too, before you put this in here, hook this cable up first, because it's kind of tight to get to down at the bottom. Because they've sent you a larger cable. I guess I'm assuming this new motor pulls more amperage than the old one. So you got to replace your cable that goes from the solenoid to the motor. So I got to fasten it to that stud right there. So let's do that. Alright, we're almost ready for a test. We just added 5 quarts of oil. Oh, we may have to add a little bit more. But I wanted to point out, always be very careful when you move these dipsticks, oil-filled dipstick, because these things are usually filthy and dirty and gritty. So you undo this, you bump one of these wires, you're going to dump dirt right into your reservoir, and that's not good. So a good thing I like to do is get some brake cleaner, or maybe with all these wires and stuff, even mass airflow cleaner, because it's safe for plastic and parts. And spray really good. Maybe if you have an air compressor, blow it out. Get all the grit gone. Make sure it's super clean before you take this out, because if you don't, all that road grit and dirt and dust will drop right in that hole. So I think we got all the wires hooked up. I'm just going to give one more final check. Something else I wanted to point out, I had to reroute some wires. The main battery wire was coming over the top. It was too short for this bigger motor. So I ran it around this way instead of being on the back side to give me a little bit more slack in the cable. Also for the hot wire here, this wire here, I think it feeds back into the coach to power the circuit board and panel and everything. Actually, it may power the main board over here behind the plexiglass. But regardless, originally it was routed under the motor, but this new larger motor is kind of tight, and I didn't want to risk compressing that wire, causing any issues. So I rerouted it over top. So there's no wires going under the motor like the original one. The original one had a big gap under there. So just wanted to point that out to you. All right, test one. Here we go. Well, it sounds good. It sounds fast, doesn't it? Jacks are coming down.
Going down good.
Okay.
It's raising up the RV. Let's try the rear.
I can't get back there.
I'll go look. Going down.
Back ones are going down. All right.
Yep, you got 'em. Stop.
Stop. Is it raising?
Yeah, it's raising.
Okay, got that.
Did you let 'em go back up?
Let's try the slide now.
Well,
Everything out of the way here.
We're okay on the outside. I don't know if the chairs are in the way on the inside.
Let's just bump
I'm
it.
gonna
See.
hey, Kevin,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stand at the back of the other slide,
Okay.
and if I whack on the side, stop.
Yeah, I can watch it, make sure it comes in, if it comes in. Let's see. Okay, it tried. You can tell it's been out for a while. Okay, there it goes. Make sure everything. Okay, here we go. Sure everything's okay. Oh, we got a chair about ready to tip over.
Okay.
Let me move that. Pretty cool, pretty cool. We might have success here. All right, let's see if we can get this slide to come all the way in.
I hope so. I mean, I'm saying, it's looking good.
Oh, let me see, I gotta move this chair. All right, let's try to bring this slide in. Always remember to let it labor a little bit so the equalization cylinder does its job. Alright, so I'm editing this video and I wanted to point out a couple things. You'll notice as that slide is coming in, you may have noticed how this back corner jumped pretty hard. Kind of notorious. This is the HWH store more level floor. Is where the room goes out, drops down level with the floor. And it's got that complicated mechanism that makes it do that. And sometimes a lot of times they get out of adjustment. Like I'm always talking about, watch your paint lines. If your paint lines aren't even, you notice your slide lower than your original paint lines, things are getting worn and things need to be adjusted back up. So after we did this test, I went under there and I've got several videos on this on how to raise that entire box up. I think it just takes a 3/4 wrench, 3/4 socket, and usually I just gave it one full turn to raise that entire RAM box assembly up, and that kept it from hooking and making all that loud pop as it was coming in. Something else I wanted to point out to you is he got this new pump assembly from Stewart's Service, HWH, up in Indiana, and he's real good. You can see his phone number right there. Real good fellow to call. I think he's been an HWH distributor for 40 years, he told me. And so I called and picked his brain a little bit about this after I got done with the project. And he told me that, I was asking him about the specs, and he said on a new pump, new motor, your PSI should be between 3,200 and 3,700. And I guess on an old system, we would need a minimum of 3,000 PSI. So when I get home with this old unit of a customer here, I'm going to get a gauge on it and do some testing and see what kind of numbers it's giving. And I know what the numbers. He said when he checked it, he was only getting 1,200 psi. So my goal when I get home is to actually tear it apart and find out why. And probably do a separate video on how to test yours, how to test pressure, how to hook up the gauges. And then also the fluid. He just used regular Dextron Mercon transmission fluid. And I think we used a little over 5 quarts to fill that new reservoir up. Something else I got to thinking about, I was wondering about how many of these RVs are going around with 20-year-old hydraulic oil in this HWH systems. Now, maybe it's a problem, maybe it's not, I don't know, but you got to think about condensation slowly probably gets in those tanks as they sweat and temperature changes and stuff. So that may be something we need to address about changing oil. And I think I did do a video on this when I changed my shuttle valve. I got on my playlist, I got about 10 or 12 HWH videos. One of them is really old video, wasn't very good, but one of my first videos I did, and I think about 8 or 9 years ago, that's where I changed the shuttle valve. And I remember at that time I hooked up a hose, I forced the pump on to pump out all the oil. So at that time I changed ours completely. But then, that's like 8 years ago. And I also came across the bulletin about changing over to synthetic, but it's kind of a lengthy procedure, and I really don't know if it's really needed, why they recommend it. That's something else I got to research and dig into. But I'm just using regular fluid in ours, and I assume most everybody's doing that. Just got standard ATF. I don't know what the advantage of synthetic would be, but maybe there is. And one last thing, a little bit of backstory. I've been helping this fella. He lives down here in Tampa, Florida, because I live in Kentucky. We've been talking back and forth on the phone. I think this first started giving him trouble back in October of last year, and it's now the middle of February. So, but we was doing some troubleshooting over the phone. He finally figured out it was the pressure, low pressure was the problem. So he got a pump, and happened to be I was down here at Kissimmee, so it wasn't too far away. So I ran over there and got it fixed for him. Oh, and one more thing to point out is sometimes you have to cut out. There's a spot there because remember there was such a tight fitting in that tray, and you can notice the motor just barely clears the tray. Sometimes you'll have situations where the trays are shorter, and you'll have to bend the tray down or notch it out for the new motor to fit in there. I was talking to Chuck Stewart. He mentioned that to me, so I was afraid that was what we was going to run into, but luckily ours cleared and made it. So just be aware, you may have to, if you do this project, you may have to adjust the tray a little bit, bend the edge down. You can sometimes take a crescent wrench and tighten it up good and tight, and you can bend it down that way. So, or a pair of vice grips if you just have to move it a little bit. Just FYI. Alright, well, that's all I got. Back to the video. Alright, so we're going to test a full cycle, go all the way out, all the way back in. Here's a little button. Alright, let's bring it back in. Alright, well, let's back here and do the bedroom slide. Sounds good, sounds good. Alright, now we're going to do the jacks one more time. Okay, jacks. They sound fast. Alright, there we go. I'm gonna go out there and watch those things. Alright, I just want to watch these back jacks. It's just kind of checking their speed. It sounds faster. Don't know that it is. It must be just that new motor. But it's doing a good job. And it lifts it lifts the RV like it's supposed to. Sounds pretty good. It's getting dark on us, but I think we've got it all done. I need to cut a few of these zip ties off, clear that up. But looking nice, looking nice. We got the little nose over here back on. Got that done. Alright, so it's getting dark on us, but there's the final result. Everything's put in place. I did do a bubo though. When I talked about my grounds, I did misplace one when I had everything apart. One of the grounds ended up way back over here in a mess of other wires. So when we put it together, we brought the slide in. It came in perfect, but then it wouldn't go out. The pump was laboring, like the solenoids wouldn't open up. So we got to digging around the test light troubleshooting and found out because you got two solenoids here on this one because it's only got two slides. So you see these two solenoids, and then you got two on the opposite side. Well, those two lost their ground because I missed the wire. So it wouldn't, unless the solenoids open up, the slide can't move. And then they close once it gets in position, in that way it holds pressure. But anyway, we tracked that down, put my ground in place, and everything's been working great. I did have to do a little fine tuning on the slide because it was hanging up on the back corner, like sometimes they do. You know, when I talk about keeping your paint lines looking good. All right, it's going from the top. There it is. All finished. I can do it, you can do it too. Wasn't too bad. I mean, what took a few hours. Got it knocked out. Anyway, thanks y'all for watching and have yourself a blessed day. See you, bye.